Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the press conference dedicated to the start of the Albanian presidency of the Security Council for the month of June. With us here today, we have Ambassador Ferit Hoxha, accompanied by our DPR, Ms. Albana Dautlari. And we will first invite Ambassador Hoxha to take the floor to brief you on the program of work during the month, and then we will take questions in the room and virtually. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Yes. Sure.
Okay. Now, if I put the glasses, I see you, but I cannot see my papers. If I take the glasses, I can see my papers. So let's start with the papers first. Thank you, Andres, and dear representatives of the media, UN correspondents, and you are a little bit also our colleagues, because you really follow the Council as much and the UN life as much as we do. And I'm extremely pleased, and I warmly welcome all of you to this briefing, the first briefing on the Albanian presidency for the month of June. And thank you all for being present. I would also like to welcome those colleagues of yours, media representatives, who are participating online virtually. It is, for me, a privilege and an honor to address you in my capacity as the President of the Security Council for this month, and as you can easily guess, the first ever for my country, Albania. And I'll be more than happy to share a few highlights of the program of work that was adopted just less than an hour ago at the Council. This meeting with you for every presidency and it's no strange that it comes right after the adoption of the program of work. And this is really the first event of importance. Let me tell you that besides the colleagues that I see almost every day, sometimes even on weekends in the Council, you are among those whom we meet and greet every weekday at your privileged media corner. So happy to see you again here. And I would like to pay tribute to all of you, individually and collectively, to your work and efforts, to your profession, to this noble task of informing the public opinion about the work of the Security Council. We are, Albania, we are and will remain committed to an efficient and transparent Security Council during this month, and I very much look forward to a healthy and mutually beneficial relationship with all of you. And thank you, that's personal, thank you for not writing that sometimes you representatives of the member states end up repeating ourselves, which is inevitably part of the complex life of the multilateralism, and particularly the dynamic life and the complex life of the Security Council, which I call the place where lights never go out. June is considered traditionally a busy month. This year is no exception. The program of work that we adopted, and I hope you have had already a copy of it, is just packed. Albania's priorities for the month join our overall priorities in the Council, in the mandate, and they are intimately related to 5 key areas. First, international law, strengthening accountability, advancement of women, peace and security agenda, the relations of the UN with regional and sub-regional organizations, and the working methods of the Council. And let me just go into a little bit more detail on some of them. First, the issue of accountability. Albanian presidency kicks off tomorrow with a high-level debate, open debate on strengthening accountability and justice for serious violations of international law. The open debate will take place, as I said, tomorrow, and will be presided over by my Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama. The presence at this level shows how important this topic is for Albania, first, but I'm sure, and given the list of speakers that we have seen so far, it is equally for all UN member states. Upholding international law and protection and promotion of human rights are at the core of Albania's foreign policy and are at the core of our priorities for our mandate in the Council. For far too long, we have watched mass human rights abuses, and the international community is struggling to hold perpetrators of serious crimes to account. We cannot and must not become familiar with impunity. There is an urgency to act now and on behalf and on the name of countless victims of senseless conflicts. And I say so for the abused women of Kosovo, for the grieving mothers of Bosnia, for the children of Ukraine, for the nameless victims in Tigray, for the Hazara in Afghanistan, for the Yazidis in Iraq, for the Rohingyas, for the political prisoners in Myanmar and in Sudan, for the detainees in Syria, for all journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty, for everyone, everywhere, whose rights have been denied, whose future have been buried, whose dreams have been shattered by abuse. There is a need to do more, better, and faster. For all of us, for what we stand for what gets us together and united to uphold the law, to protect the UN Charter, and to preserve multilateralism. The very reason we are here. We must do everything in our power to recommit to core norms and values and redouble our efforts to enforce compliance and stop transgression. Because if not respected and implemented, international law is just the paper it is printed upon. All countries, UN member states, have a role to play, and Albania is doing its part. This is all what is it about our first signature event that will happen tomorrow under the leadership and chairmanship of Prime Minister. The briefers for this event, which, as said, be presided by Prime Minister, will be the President of the International Court of Justice, Judge Donoghue, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, and Oxford Professor Dapo Akande as representative of the civil society. Now, our second item of importance is women, peace, and security. In accordance with our priorities as a signatory of the Statement of Shared Commitment with other Council members, Albania will champion women, peace, and security and make it a key priority also during the presidency, the month of June. Therefore, our second signature event will be held on the 15th of June, entitled Keeping the Promises, the Role of Regional Organizations in Implementing Women, Peace, and Security in the face of political turmoil and seizures of power by force. The open debate on the 15th will be chaired by the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of Albania, Olta Gjachka. We will focus on the role of regional sub-regional organizations in protecting and furthering the implementation of the agenda during these turbulent times, emphasizing the role of these organizations, their engagement, and women-led civil society, and the need for context-specific and tailor-made approaches. We have invited briefers from various regional organizations from all over the world, and we hope to be able to accommodate as many of them as possible. And of course, we expect the Secretary General Guterres to be present at that meeting. And we intend to communicate under the shared commitments on specific country issues related to women, peace, and security to continue to raise awareness on the situation of women worldwide. Our third item of importance relates to the informal working group on documentation. It is dedicated to what we commonly qualify as the working methods. I happen to have the honor to chair the IWG, and we will organize on the 28th of June the annual debate on the working methods. As we all know, the Security Council has gone through some tough couple of years under the extraordinary situation of pandemic. So we believe that an open and in-depth debate on the Council working methods, it's timely and very much needed. We look forward to a good exchange and lessons learned on the capacity of the Security Council to adapt to change in discharging its mandate in maintaining international peace and security. The fourth item of primary importance concerns the agenda item cooperation of UN with regional and sub-regional organizations as alone this time, and the Presidency will organize a briefing at an elevated level on cooperation between the United Nations and the European Union. The very turbulent situation in the world, including as a result of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the huge and increasing humanitarian needs across the world, give more incentives to the need for a stronger UN-EU cooperation, especially in political, humanitarian, and human rights aspects. The EU, as I'm sure everybody knows, is also involved in the implementation of various Security Council mandates. And again, profiting from the presence of Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Jajka, in the town. She will chair this meeting as well, and we expect the High Representative of the EU, Joseph Borrell, to be present at that meeting. Now, I will move a little bit more quickly now on other parts of the program. As I mentioned, there will be 3 debates, open debates, 2 debates, specific debates, one on IRMCT, residual mechanism on ICTY and ICTY, on the 14th of June, and another one on Afghanistan on 23rd of June. It will be a briefing, but also consultations, as we agreed this morning among members of the Council. And all in all, we will have 17 briefings, and there will be 5 mandate renewals. We start this week on Friday. I hope the Council will be able to renew the mandate on Libya, Irini, and then, of course, during the month, the mandates on UNITAMS, MINUTSMA, UNDOF, and the DRC. During our month, Ukraine will be very much present in our program. We will start on the 6th of June. It will focus on the issue of sexual violence in conflict and trafficking of human beings. We keep to intend the issue of Ukraine high on the agenda and meet as often as the reality on the ground will require. We expect to have at this first meeting on Ukraine a high-level participation from the European Union as well. We will have 2 meetings on Syria on humanitarian and political aspects, respectively on 20 June and 29. And then we will have a meeting on Yemen, and we hope that the truce will be extended and a meaningful political process is initiated. So we know that tomorrow the truce ends, but we hope that tomorrow the truce is reconducted for the benefit of the country, its people, and it's mostly the civilians who have always, as for every conflict, but also there, paid the high price of a 7-long-year conflict. We'll have a meeting on Libya, hoping that the constitutional framework will be agreed, completely agreed, and that the progress of the first meeting in Cairo will be sustained so that we have a framework to organize the very much needed elections to give a different perspective to Libya. The Council will also meet on Middle East peace process, Haiti and UNDOF, among others. And on the very last day, there is a very specific meeting on the non-proliferation, and we expect a discussion on JCPOA. And we formulate the hope, again, that during this month, until the day of the meeting, progress will be made and possibly, hopefully, reported at the Council on the ongoing discussions. Colleagues, in line with our commitments, we have tried to strike a balance between open meetings, which for us and for you bring transparency, but also closed consultations, which for us, sometimes for you, bring efficiency on the work of the Council. So there's always a discussion, and we try to strike the right balance on this aspect. And to promote effective and inclusive decision-making, the Albanian Presidency is also committed to bringing civil society voices to the Council in a safe and meaningful way, because we think that giving a voice to those who work on the ground, sometimes confronted themselves by violence and conflict, is important, is a value added. It brings really what we sometimes need into our discussion. And this is a way and an opportunity to participate also for the civil society to be a participant on the political processes, and their views should be heard by everyone. In this respect, we have committed to the OHCHR good practices guidelines on the UN Security Council member states to mitigate intimidation and reprisal. In alignment with those guidelines, we're taking measures to prevent intimidation and reprisal against civil society briefers, and this is part of our shared commitment with other Council members within the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Staying true to our commitment, we have been careful also in identifying and selecting CSO briefers. The majority of them will be women, not just because they are women, but because they are very good representatives with distinguished achievements in their respective fields. Lastly, and I'll stop there, I promise, in presiding the Security Council, Albania will abide by the rules and procedures. We will act in the spirit of fairness and transparency. We will push to seek solutions that contribute in the best way to the fulfillment of the noble commitments of all the members of the Security Council, which is the maintenance of peace and security, and we will, I'm sure, show it by concrete action in reality. With this, Andres, over to you, and I'd be glad to take some comments and questions.
Thank you, Ambassador. You know, as tradition goes, the first questions goes to Anka. Valeria, please, the floor is for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Ambassador, for this press conference on behalf of Anka, and we wish you the best of luck for the busy month ahead. My question, Valeria Robeco from ANSA News Agency. Can you confirm the possibility to work on a Security Council resolution for a naval mission aimed at facilitating the resumption of Ukraine wheat export from the Black Sea ports? And also, what is the collaboration with Italy on the mandate of Albanian Security Council about? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valeria. Grazie, Valeria. Well, I mean, you know that the issue of Ukraine has been in the Council almost every week, sometimes even more. And there's reason for that, because the situation is complex. We know what Ukraine invasion means in terms of international law, in terms of UN Charter, and in terms of upheaval that it has created also on the very aspect that you mentioned, the food security, and of course, very particularly the possibility of export of the existing commodities both in Ukraine and in Russia. We have not seen any concrete text, to be very concrete on that. I would not be surprised that a text is presented. I know that there are various efforts that are being made within and outside the Council, and the Secretary General and the UN are also involved. As soon as we have something, we will be very glad to share that with you if that happens under our presidency. As to the cooperation with our friendly and neighbor country, Italy, we're very happy to work particularly with Italy. I mean, we have absolutely excellent relations, and we're happy about that. And Security Council offers Albania the possibility to reinforce relations not only with Italy, but also with all UN, EU members and other like-minded countries. But we're open to cooperate with every other UN member state.
I give the floor to CBS, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ambassador. Ambassadors. We're looking forward to the month. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. I have a big picture question, which is about the ceasefire that's being negotiated. Some are saying it's Ukraine removes the mines, Russia pulls back. Others are also saying that Ukraine cedes some territory, and that's not something Ukraine wants. What is your view of that? And then the minor question is just, you mentioned Borrell. Charles Michel is also in New York at the very beginning of the month. I believe it's the 6th. Will you have anything at the Security Council with him? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pamela. You're very well informed, as always. Now, on Ukraine, as President of the Council, I must say that we will, of course, see what comes before the member states and how these efforts feed into trying to address that particularly sensitive issue related to food security, and particularly related to the possibility of exports through the naval ports of Ukraine of grain that is in Ukraine, but also other possibilities and contingencies that exist in Russia. Now, on a national capacity, I would say that this highlights one of the issues that we have been highlighting in the Council, that yes, there is a problem in food security, but it's a problem because we cannot really get hands-on the existing commodities in Ukraine and in Russia. And I think it is absolutely the right way to use every possible way to make sure that what is existing is exported, so that those who need it, and we know how many in the world are struggling, how many countries are struggling because their normal furniture imports have been disrupted. So I think that it is the right way. All efforts should converge into one thing: how to make sure that there is a safe passage for those be ships or other ways of transporting, but it should happen sooner rather than later. As to the presence of high officials from the European Union, I mentioned that on the 6th, on the meeting on Ukraine, European Union representatives will be in town. Yes, you're right. Charles Michel, the President of the Council of the European Union, will be in town. He will participate at that meeting, and we'll be very happy to hear what the European Union will bring at that level.
That's on the 6th?
The 6th. Yeah. On that, when the European Union or any country, organization or country participate at that level, it is that it really shows the primary importance of the topic under discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Denada, please. The floor is for you, Denada.
There have been several declarations by the Russian authorities, including President Putin, drawing parallel between Donbass and Kosovo. How do you think of it? Is there any similarity? Thank you.
Thank you, Denada, and thank you for coming from Albania to ask a question. As the President of the Council, I may say that Kosovo is not in the program of work for this month, but I would like to make a couple of comments on my national capacity. From the outset, we don't see any similarity between Kosovo, an independent state, and the unprovoked military aggression of Russia in Ukraine and the prefabricated, that's how I'd like to call them, republics in Donbass, for the very simple reason because there isn't any similarity. And for the sake of truth, there is no similarity between Kosovo and any other situation anywhere in the world. Now, I will go back and I will not take much time, but it's important for us as well because this issue is in the Council agenda at least twice a year so far. NATO operation in '99 followed over a year of intense diplomatic efforts by the UN and the contact group where Russia was a member as well. There are 8 Security Council resolutions dealing with Kosovo before 1244, which established the UN mission, UNMIK, which is still going on. So the UN Security Council at that time branded the ethnic cleansing in Kosovo and the mounting number of refugees as a threat to peace and security, and that was for good reason. So NATO mission helped to put an end to large-scale gross violations of human rights, killing of civilians, and atrocities as they have been documented, including by ICTY. And also one thing, the ICJ opinion in 2010 ruled that the Kosovo independence declared in 2008 did not violate international law. The very same ICJ a couple of months ago issued an order unsubstantiating the Russian claim, which, let's not forget, was the justification for war, the supposedly genocide that Ukraine had been conducting on the Russian minorities in Ukraine. And that order called Russia to stop because they did not find any reason to substantiate the claim for genocide. So as we know, there are many institutions, many organizations, regional and global, who could deal with the issues, concerns, and grievances of Russian population in Ukraine. But unfortunately, Russia chose another way, just going to war, invading its neighbor. And we know now the results. And then my final comment on this. Kosovo is not a matter of peace and security. It's no longer a matter that should be discussed under Chapter 7. I've said that very clearly in the Council, and that position will be our own foreign mandate, because Kosovo today is a matter of state building, of democratic institutions performing, and of civil society, free civil society to develop further. So this is the perspective. And seen from Albania, a neighboring country to Kosovo, the Western Balkans is a fast developing region. We do not forget what happened, but we are not stuck in the past. We are looking forward with vision, forward how we can work more together, forward how we can increase people-to-people contacts, and how we can get ourselves and the region together moving forward in our well-deserved Euro-Atlantic perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Abdul Hamid.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. My name is Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. And first, I want to comment on your introductory remarks. You mentioned many people suffering around the world. You mentioned Hazara in Afghanistan, Syria, Myanmar, but you forgot the Palestinians who are being suffering for 74 years. I am wondering, how could you forget the suffering of the Palestinian people? But my question also, talking about accountability, is Israel, for all those years, in violation of international law? Should it be held accountable, in your view? Do they have the right to defend their occupation, and the Palestinians don't have the right to resist occupation? Can you give me a clear-cut answer? Sometimes many ambassadors, try to find a middle language, evasive language. Do the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves and fight occupation? Thank you.
Thank you, Abdulhamid, and I'm sorry if I really did not mention specifically Palestinians. I said also everyone everywhere in the world who was suffering, so that was, and certainly you're right, there are Palestinians suffering, and there are Palestinians who need to have their rights upheld. Now, the position of Albania, and of course I'm speaking on national capacity because we know that the Council is divided on this issue, and the issue is every month in the Council. You follow them very closely, I'm sure. You follow also the position of Albania on this. Our position on this is pretty much aligned with the position of the European Union. And our stance has been, is, and will not change that we are in favor of two-state solution. One Israel which needs to be secure, needs to feel secure, needs not to be and feel threatened, because otherwise we cannot advance in any solution, and a viable, contiguous state of Palestine where everyone enjoys the same right. There is no solution that can be sustained if Israelis and Palestinians do not feel equal before the law. The law is and should be the same. Are we yet there? No, otherwise we wouldn't be discussing on that. But this is what we look forward, this is what we wish, this is what we work for. And I hope that in a not too distant future, given that this is the longest conflict ever in modern history, we will be able to report otherwise, not of suffering, not of violence, which brings violence, but reporting progress. I know that sometimes steps are insufficient, meetings always at higher level, and it's so easy in such a complex situation to find reasons why it doesn't work rather than to find ground for it to make it work. I wish I had a better response for you, but this is the clear, direct, sincere response of the position of my country. We feel for everyone whose rights are denied. We feel for everyone who needs to be and to feel a citizen, to have a future, to have a project, to build their lives in cooperation and in friendship with others.
Thank you, and I will pass the floor to Edith. Edith, please, from Associated Press.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. A couple of follow-up questions. On your signature issues on accountability, women, peace and security, and cooperation with the EU, will there be any outcome documents? Let me go that first. I'm sure we'd all like to know.
For the time being, we do not plan to have any outcome document. We're reflecting. It's always the documents, be it the very simple ones, which are press elements or PRSTs, going up higher in the chain, always something that take a lot of time, take a lot of brainstorming. I'm in the brainstorming state with my team so far, and if ever we come with something more concrete, we will, of course, inform as appropriate the Council and, of course, beyond the Council.
And on the Ukraine meeting, we know that Charles Michel's going to be there and obviously speaking. Who else do you expect to be briefing at that meeting?
We are expecting to have, as a briefer, the civil society. We will be looking, there will be someone from the civil society, and for reasons that you understand, we do not announce the civil society representatives far in advance, just to take care of what I mentioned in my introductory remarks, that we want them to participate in a safe and meaningful way. But there will be one representative from civil society. We are expecting also the secretariat, the UN secretariat, to be appropriately represented at the core of the personnel who deals with sexual violence and trafficking of persons. This process is sometimes back and forth to see the viability, but of course we will have the appropriate people to brief in the Council.
And on, I'm still doing just a couple,
I
one
hope
more
this is the last
follow-up.
one, Edith.
Okay.
As you have the
We have
microphone,
Last
go
one.
on, it is.
Last one. On your main accountability debate tomorrow, what do you hope will come out of that debate? What's your real goal in doing this?
Two issues. Again, we will not propose any product, and I'm wondering whether we need a product, because we have international law, we have the mechanisms, we have the tools, we just need to make sure that we use them. We want the Council, again, to highlight this issue, and as you may remember, and I'm speaking on a national capacity, Albania is a co-founder of the group of Friends on Accountability following the aggression on Ukraine. We are very active, and we co-chair the group. Albania organized an area formula on the 27th of April with a distinguished panel of briefers, but also with an admirable participation from the UN member states, the Council and outside, on the issue of accountability in Ukraine. As more time passes, we see that unfortunately, more crimes are committed in Ukraine, but not only. And we wanted this meeting on accountability not to be focused on one specific issue, on one place, on one country, on one situation, on one theater, but across the board. Because we think that it's important that we remind ourselves that if accountability is not observed, then this is a license to do more for anyone who is used to abuses. And because there are difficulties in making sure to bring perpetrators to account, I think that we need at least maintain this issue as high as possible on the agenda. There is no peace without accountability. There is no peace without bringing those who are responsible for atrocity crimes, for war crimes and crimes against humanity and genocide to account. The sooner, the better, because we owe it to all those victims, including, of course, everyone in the world who suffers from abuse, and that's the main purpose. So maintaining it high into agenda, mobilizing the Council and the UN membership in more action vis-à-vis accountability.
Thank you, and I give the floor to CCTV, please.
Hi, Ambassador. This is De Zhishu from China Central Television. First, wish you a successful presidency. I have two questions. First, it's a quick confirmation. You mentioned there would be like 5 mandate extensions.
Right.
Does this include the Syrian cross-border the humanitarian resolution?
The response is very clear, no, because that's for July.
Okay, so the second question, just like you mentioned, it's a very extraordinary situation now in the Security Council, and it's quite divided. Do you think it's important to show the world that a unified Security Council would be important? And as the president of the Security Council, what's your plan to, basically show the world that this council is still working on big issues? Thank you.
Any time that there are divisive issues in the Council, through the positions of the member states, shows these divisions. Division is not what the Council should, the situation of division is not what the Council should be. And of course, seen from the elected, from the perspective of elected member, of course we regret that the Council finds itself in situations of an inability to act, of inability to approve, to come together, to adopt important decisions, resolutions that affect the lives of the people somewhere in the world. The Security Council mandate is to uphold, to maintain peace and security. When the Council is blocked, it does the contrary. Unfortunately, this is the truth, this situation, and we've seen that so many times. And there is one problem into that, is the misuse of veto. The use, but unfortunately the misuse of veto. This is one of the issues that we need to discuss further to see how we can reform the veto, and Albania is part of every initiative in reforming the veto. because that would help the Council to be more productive, to be more efficient, and to be more responsive in implementing its mandate. Of course, I would like the Council every day to be united. Of course, we will try and do our best for the Council to be united with our proposals, with those informal consultations, if we can manage. I don't have any illusion that we will solve the problems, but trust me, we'll try.
Thank you. And I give the floor to Murad. Murad, please.
Thank you, Murad from Al Jazeera Arabic. Israel increasingly threatening the historical status quo of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and we have seen the tension recently. Do you think addressing this conflict by holding only one meeting with no outcomes is enough?
Thank you for the question. The issue of the status of the holy sites is present in the meetings, is present in the positions of member states, including Albania's. There is one meeting on the month, but nothing prevents any country in the Council to ask for more meetings, and that is for the Middle East peace process or any other issue, as we have seen. Sometimes there is more than one meeting. It happened, if I'm not wrong, under the Russian presidency, we had 4 meetings on Syria because they added one meeting. But again, the status of the holy sites is regulated between Israel and Jordan. So there is an agreement. And any time issues come up, I think it's first to see the implementation of that agreement between 2 member states. And then if needed be, that can be extended. But of course, I don't think that the issue is at a state that the Council need to be involved more. If needed, I think member states will find a way to bring it to the Council if the Council can contribute into that.
Thank you. And I see Halil wants to take the floor.
Thank you. Urime successor Cyprus. Ambassador, the Russian aggression in Ukraine, a reflection on the Western Balkans, where we saw pretty much the same did happen over 20 years ago in Croatia, in Bosnia, and in Kosovo through the Russian satellite Serbia. How it is? How do you see that?
Faleminderit Halil, përshëndetje. Thank you for that question. That joins a little bit the comments that I made earlier, but more specifically, and of course I'm speaking on national capacity. Of course, we know the position of Russia vis-à-vis the open door policy of NATO and vis-à-vis the countries who have aspirations of joining the European Union. Albania is a candidate country, and we very much hope that next week, when the European Council meets, we have good news of opening negotiations for accession. I don't know if that will happen or not, but this is our wish, and Albania is ready for that. This means that our roadmap, our vision, our future for Albania, for North Macedonia, another candidate, for Montenegro, a candidate that has opened every chapter with the European Union, and for Bosnia and Kosovo, and of course for Serbia. Serbia is a candidate country. That road is clear. Whoever comes across that will have to deal with us. And as far as Albania is concerned, we are not bothered by whatever attempts to derail our process, because we are strong enough to really resist that, because this is the aspiration of the Albanian people. Now, different countries have different interests. Different countries might make different efforts. And as I said, NATO aspiration of some of the countries in the region doesn't really coincide with Russia's, but it's up to us, and it's up to our cooperation with our partners, with our many countries, with the European Union, to resist every attempt to derail this process, and we will not allow it. Because also, let's remember, as I said, we have a cooperation between our countries, and we look forward not only of individual advancement to the European Union, but also of collective advancement. And we have created frameworks of cooperating as closely as possible with each other.
Colleagues, may I remind you that we have way past 45 minutes. I have one question from Efrem. He wants to take the floor from Arab News.
Thank you so much. Ambassador, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm seeing 2 meetings on Syria, as you mentioned, but there's a third supposedly regular meeting on Syria's chemical weapons that we don't see here. So I'm just wondering what happened, how did that happen? Because last time we checked, the initial declaration of the Assad government is still incomplete according to the UN. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. That reassures me how attentively you look at the program and our work. There is no departure on the regularity of 3 meetings on the Syrian file, so the political, humanitarian, and chemical weapons. We made an exception this time, but this is no precedent, and this is absolutely no departure from the normal work on Syria. But since the meeting under the American presidency happened very late, and we do not expect, and you're right, the response from the Assad regime is incomplete and is deemed not satisfactory from the OPCW and of course from many in the council, including my own country. We thought that given the packed program that we had, we agreed among council members to have a meeting early next presidency. Of course, it will be up to the presidency to decide on the date and depending on the program. But I mean, this short time between end of May and beginning of July would not really constitute any precedent or departure. So there will be a meeting very early in July, and of course, we'll come back to the issue of the chemical weapons in the Syrian file.
Thank you. And the last question, I'm warning everyone, it's from the Turkish Anadolu Agency.
Thank you,
We'll
Ambassador.
take your question as well, I promise you. Yeah.
Sir, there are journalists
Yes, go ahead.
online. There are
Well, I was seeing a blank screen. Now I can see you.
Andres, we'll take as many as we can.
Please, first Turkish
Thank you,
Anadolu.
Ambassador. Betül Yürük, Turkish news agency Anadolu. I've got 2 questions, one on Syria. We have been hearing concerns about Russia closing the last crossing on the Syrian border, which allows humanitarian aid into Idlib and other parts of Syria. And we also heard about negotiations. What have you been hearing from your Russian colleague? And does the Security Council have plan B if that border closes? And also, is the Council willing to make any compromises to make sure that it stays open? And a second question maybe on your national capacity. How do you think the dispute between Turkey, Finland, and Sweden over their NATO membership should be dealt with? Thanks.
Thank you very much. On the first one, as President, I may say that this question is not part of the program during this month. If anything, in terms of proposal for the renewal of mandate comes, of course, we'll take that into the normal practical negotiation process between the member states so that we prepare ourselves for the renewal in July. Now, on a national capacity, I may say that if, and I'm not aware of any Russian decision to renew or not to renew, I don't know. I mean, we are in touch with them, we will see, like everybody else is in touch with them, and we always cooperate with everyone in the Council. But from our point of view, the closure of the only cross-border passage for Syrians, for those 14 million people in Syria who depend on humanitarian assistance from abroad, be it cross-border, cross lines, that means a condemnation to death, to starvation, to hunger, to millions of people. I hope no one, not Russia, not any other country, will come to that decision to condemn civilians, poor people in need with death and hunger. So this is a big responsibility. Again, I don't know where the lines of thought are, but we know how important it is, and we highlight that every month in the meetings, on humanitarian issues. So we expect discussion. There may be difficult, but again, we expect discussion to be to happen very, very, very soon. And then on the comment between Turkey, Finland, and Sweden, I wouldn't make any comment because member states deal with the issues in different ways, and I'm sure a solution will be found between countries concerned. Turkey is a friendly country, is a NATO member, is one of the most powerful countries in NATO, and I'm sure that Turkey is equally interested in having a strong organization which has been reinvigorated after what happened in Ukraine, and everyone sees now how important it is to have that collective defense organization in face of the unpredictability of behavior of some states.
Thank you, and I will take a question from the screen, from VTC. I'm sorry, I don't see the name. Please, the journalist on the VTC. Iftikhar Ali. Mr. Ali.
Can you hear?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Ambassador. This is Iftikhar Ali from Associated Press of Pakistan. I know last month the Security Council issued a statement concerning the status of women and girls in Afghanistan, but having done that, is the Council now prepared to do more to do more so that the Taliban the Taliban honor the pledges they have made to the international community?
Thank you very much. I think Afghanistan is one of the issues in the Council where is broad consensus on many aspects of the situation, the current situation in Afghanistan. The fact that we had a press statement under the situation in which the Council is evolving nowadays is very positive. What happened is first a breach of a commitment by the Taliban. It's very bad, it's unwelcome, and it has huge consequences for women and girls in Afghanistan. So we will have two meetings. We'll have two meetings on Afghanistan during our presidency. And again, we will have a briefing, but also we need to go into more details. And when we need to do that, we go to consultations to really ask more difficult questions, go more into the nitty-gritty of every aspect of the situation in Afghanistan. And as far as Albania is concerned, we are very pushy within the shared commitments that we have on women, peace and security to really be more concrete, more forthcoming, more vocal on the situation in Afghanistan, and I hope that the Council will come with us on that issue.
Thank you very much.
I
see the gentleman that the ambassador himself promised.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York. Congratulations again for the first presidency of the Security Council by Albania. You say in your presentation that Albania, the core, even also your Prime Minister did today with the video, that the core of the Albanian foreign policy and participation here at the UN, there is human rights, the defense of human rights. My question is about migrants, and specifically on the situation of the migrants in Libya, where they actually pushed back them by the Libyan Coastal Guard, and then when they pushed back, they tortured, they put it in camp, and the situation, we know what it is. Recently, the IOM accused the European Union of close both eyes on this situation, on not intervening, on not doing enough to protect the migrants. So my question is, first, do you think that this is an issue that the Security Council has to address? And what you will do as a president of the Security Council that has not been done so far about this issue? And then I have another question, that is, President Biden recently went to Japan, and accordingly to what the Prime Minister of Japan said, he said they assured Japan that the United States will push for the reform of the Security Council for having a permanent seat for Japan. So what do you think about this issue? Do you think it's just talk? I mean, it's easy just to say, yeah, the United States will support, or there is actually a change, something that is happening for a reform of the Security Council, and what would be your position, if you can say, maybe in your national capacity? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The two questions. First, for the migrants. As I mentioned, we'll have a meeting on Libya. And of course, every aspect of the Libyan situation, a very complex one, politically, the humanitarian aspect, and of course, the issue of migrants are always present in our discussion. I can tell you what we do as Albania on migrants and displaced people, what we have done with the Afghanis, what we have done with the Kosovars in '99, and so on and so on. I'm not here to issue recommendations on how specific countries or regions act, but I know that the European Union, I can say that, is very much involved, because what happens in Libya affects the security of the southern Mediterranean, to which Albania is also part. And I think we should always be wary to do whatever we can to save lives of unfortunate people who, for whatever reason, choose to migrate. Is there a scope to do more? Of course. But again, it's not only the Security Council. There are many other UN entities who deal with that, who have the primary responsibility. But again, bringing every issue linked to peace and security in the Council is the right thing. And regarding the second question on the reform of Security Council, now, the reform has been going on since '93. We know the 5 clusters. We know how much that has advanced. We know that every time the intergovernmental informal group meets, we have more or less the same positions, same groups, United for Consensus, G4, different other configurations. The reform has not moved. I very much hope that the situation that we have now could be an impetus to really be more active and to progress towards meaningful reform of Security Council, because everybody agrees the Security Council today does not represent the world of today. So there is need for reform, but we have not, among member states, agreed how the reform should happen, what it should really mean in terms of membership, non-permanent, permanent, and so on and so on. The position of Albania on this, given the very strong contradictions that exist between different countries who are close to Albania, we don't have a position regarding the permanent membership, yes or no. We don't take a stand on that issue, but our position is that our group, in case the elected membership is increased, our group, the East European states group, should have one additional, because of the multiplicity of member states after the different events that have happened in the last 3 decades. I mean, the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the dissolution of Yugoslavia. But that's where we are on this. But I don't expect really any fundamental change to happen in terms of reform of Security Council. Unfortunately, that's the case.
And with this, we conclude our press conference. Thank you very much for your interest.